All the pretty girls, put your hands in the air. Part in my stash, your complexion gives glass. Make a real.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So this video today is going to be a detailed video on how to get a natural looking full sew-in with a closure where it looks really natural. So the first step is starting on freshly cleaned hair, and then from there step 2 is going to be to section the hair and to braid the hair for the braid pattern for the foundation of the actual weave. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm actually going to leave the edges of my client's hair out so that the sewing can look a lot more natural and realistic, because she did not want that wiggy look. So that's what we're doing here. And then the braid pattern that I decided to go with is going to be basically like a circle. My client is having a side part, so I'm braiding the braids down and then going around in a circle so that the foundation can be super flat. And I section as I braid, as you can see here, and make sure that the braids are really tiny, as small as you can get them, so that the braids can be really flat, because if the braids are bigger, then you're gonna have a bulkier sew-in. And I find when I do the braid straight back, sometimes the back of the hair, if they have a lot of hair, if the hair really thick, it'll stick out a little bit. So that's why I chose to go with this braid pattern. But continue to watch and you can see exactly how I did it.
Shutterstock Music.
Also guys, make sure if this is your first time on my channel that you hit that subscribe button, as well as turn on your notifications. That way when I make other videos that are pretty good and detailed, you'll be the first to know about it. Again guys, thank you so much for tuning into my channel. Continue to watch this full video.
Shutterstock Music. Shutterstock Music. Shutterstock Music. Shutterstock Music. Shutterstock Music. Shutterstock Music.
So I'm going in with the Miel growth oil to go through the braids. You always want to make sure that you use some type of oil on your client's hair or your hair to make sure that your scalp is protected, or the client's scalp is protected, because you don't know how long they're going to keep this sewing in. Could be a month, could be 2 months. So you just want to make sure that you're protecting their scalp and keeping it nice and healthy. Now I am threading down that end of that braid, and I typically go downward with the thread, and then you'll see me start to go back up, and that's just to double secure that it is secured down pretty well, because you definitely don't want it coming in loose underneath the net or anything like that. So that's what I'm doing there, and then I'm just using my slip knot method to knot it, and then I'm going to cut that string right on off. And then I'm just showing you my braid pattern.
Shutterstock Music.
Alright, so the last step is to begin sewing. So the first thing I'm going to start with is this closure. So as you can see, that first braid there is going to be my client edges where I'm going to leave the hair out. So I'm stitching at the edge of that closure to the perimeter braid right there at the front, okay? And you want to get this down as much as possible, and right where you see that little lace, you want to try to get that as tucked in, you know, under that braid as possible, okay? And that's what I'm pretty much doing there. I'm anchoring that down, and I'm having my client hold the other side of it. It just makes it a little bit easier so that you know that this is as tight as it can get, and that is not going to keep moving on you, because that is the most irritating thing ever, is for the closure to keep moving. So my client is holding it for me, and I am doing very close stitching right next to each other. This does not work if you stitch far apart, because you're going to have bulking within that closure, and you don't want your closure to do that, because you want to be able to part it wherever the client wants it parted, and once they leave you, you want them to still be able to part their closure. So pretty much I'm just doing stitches right next to each other. I'm going to repeat this all the way down on this side. I'm not going to stitch the back of this. I'm just going to stitch the side of it all the way down, and then I'm going to go to the other side and do the same thing. And the reason for that is if you go to the back before you do the opposite side, the closure is going to slip back. So after I did the opposite side, now as my last step, I am threading the back of it down. And then I'm just going to tie all this hair up in the front to get the hair out my way. As you can see, the closure is nice and flat, but you see the part in the front that's just flapping away. I'm going to now come to that part, and I'm going to begin to tack it down. And the reason I'm tacking it down in the front like that is because my client is wearing a side part. So she is not going to alternate her parts. So I decided to just tack it down that way to make sure that it's secure. And I'm doing the same thing on the other side. As you can see, it's nice and flat there.
Shutterstock Music.
Now I am going ahead and adding my net after I've done the closure. Reason for that is I don't want the black part on this net to show through my lace closure, so I decided to do it afterwards. And I'm just basically going around the perimeter of those braids and just threading it down all the way around to make sure that my lace is attached so that I can begin the sewing on top of that lace. And that's pretty much what I am showing you here. I'm just literally going around that perimeter braid, and now that's done. Now I'm going to begin to stitch my tracks onto this lace. So the first thing I want to say is I do not put the needle through the stitching on the weft. Reason for that is that typically causes the hair to shed, and we don't want the hair to shed. So I'm literally putting the needle through the hair right underneath that weft stitching, and then I'm putting it underneath that braid, okay, so that it can be as flat as possible. And I like to wrap that thread around that needle twice, then do a slip knot on there so that it can be extra secure. So you'll see me wrapping the thread around the needle and then putting the slip knot through. And I did double these wefts so that the hair can be nice and full. And I pretty much went all the way around. I flipped it over And once you do the flip over method, you want to make sure that you stitch it very, very good where you're flipping it over so that it do not be bulky. Because that's the worst, to have a weave and then it's really bulky on the sides. So when you flip it over, stitch it down really good, and then you're just going to repeat that all the way up, and you start to go all the way around the sides. Once you get a little, maybe halfway, then you can start bringing it all the way up to the sides. But continue to watch and you'll see how I just go back and forth with this same method all the way up, just about to the top.
Shutterstock Music. 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 Shutterstock Music.
Alright, so now that I'm at the top of her head, what you want to do is you want to stitch that last track and connect it with the closure. And that's pretty much what I'm doing here. I'm taking that last track on the side and I'm connecting it to that little bit of lace or the very edge of the closure. And what that's going to do is that's going to keep any gaps when you decide to take that hair down from the closure. So when the hair from the closure overlaps the weave tracks, you don't want to have a gap there. So connecting that track onto that closure will eliminate that. As you can see there is no gap in between my track and the closure, and that's pretty much what I'm showing you there. It's just nice and neat and close together, and that's what you want. And you want to make sure that you knot it very well so it doesn't come apart.
Shutterstock Music.
And that's it, guys. This is the final look. As you can see, it looks nice and neat. Looks really natural. And thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure you like this video, share this video, and subscribe to my channel. Also, tune in to my previous video. Thank you guys. Have a blessed day.